Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Lacrosse Brevard podcast. I'm Josh Buzzard here with Adam Vasquez, and we have Jordan Moss off camera providing stats and information today. Right off the top, I'm the big loser of our bet. I've got to wear the Vieira hat during the show today after an 8-5 loss to Coach Adam, Coach Logan, Coach Matt, and all the guys up at Vieira. So congratulations
Yeah, thank
to you
you.
guys on a hard-fought victory. Good game, exciting game, close game. A frustrating result for my side, but I told our team after the game that any game where at the end of the game a team's got to get it in and keep it in the box, those are the close competitive lacrosse games you want to play in.
Well, yeah, and I was going to add to that. I mean, it was a defensive showing out there. I mean, it was a defensive clinic. How many takeaways between the two teams?
I believe it was about 31
Yeah.
forced turnovers between the two teams.
Yeah, and it wasn't like easy forced turnovers. I mean, it was high pressure, real time, really good checks, really timed, good body position. So well earned on all those. And then the other thing is, anytime you can keep a team to 8 goals or less, that's a defensive battle right there.
Yeah.
I mean, our goal in college was always under 9 or less. If you got 8 or less, you're the number one defense in the NCAA. So
for almost my entire lacrosse career, I feel like I have been told by my coaches and people I've been working with, lacrosse is honestly a race to 10.
yeah,
If you can be that offensive team that gets to 10 first and you have a defense that can keep them right under there, it sounds a little bit obvious. It sounds a little redundant, but it honestly is a great number to be shooting for and aim to be around. So we've got to step it up on the offensive half and help the defense out. And you guys managed to do enough and put enough points on the board to get that win. And with that being said, one moment from that game that kind of sticks with me, and I'm more focused on this and how we create better outcomes out of a situation like this than I am with the score of that game itself. Is I had a player who was a first-year lacrosse player who made our varsity team this year, and during the course of that game, he approached me on the sideline and asked if the game and some of the calls that were being made in that game were correct and enforced properly. And I did not agree with how some of those things were called.
and I would say both sides. Both sides. I
Absolutely.
agree too. Yeah.
And this is a young man that's a big physical athlete coming over from football. And he was essentially told at the beginning of the game, any physical hits, you will be put in the penalty box. And he came to me with the attitude, and he did not quit. He stuck it out throughout the game, but he was saying to me, like, hey, if this is how they're going to officiate this and they're not going to let us actually play this game, I don't know why I'm here. I don't know why I'm playing this. And that's a really tough thing to look back at a kid and say, like, yeah, you're not doing anything that I find to be wrong or egregious, and this guy is just singling out players and penalizing them. And I find it to be a huge problem that we have in this area right now, and I don't want to harp on it too deeply. I have great appreciation for these guys that give their evenings to get out and ref these games, but we have to have some better level of understanding and consistent officiating across the board, because game to game, what these kids see and are officiated and allowed to do is just not consistent, and that makes it incredibly challenging for us as coaches and for them as players to know what is correct.
And I'll just add to that. I mean, it's not just one game. We've seen this consistently throughout the entire season so far. In fact, when we noticed this last year, because we had the same referee problem last year, when you go into the playoffs, when you're playing other teams outside our region and playing out of our region, it really is a disservice to the kids, because what happens is the refs in these other regions are calling different style games, more physical games. And so that we're underprepared, because we've been coaching our kids, trying to prepare them to play within what is being called in the game, so we don't end up in the penalty box all night. And so when we go out, and every team out of this area experiences, when we go out play Orlando teams, Tampa teams, Jacksonville teams, or South Florida teams, the reffing is much, I'm not saying it's the greatest reffing. There's good and bad refs in every region, same with ours. But when you start going and saying there's no hits, we won't do anything, we'll call these bad calls, like situational stuff, when not call award when it's clearly award, or call award when the guy's just trying to get balance, about ready to fall over, and not getting any advantage. It really hurts teams playing outside the region, because they're just not used to playing at that level. So they pull back, right? They pull back. And it's even worse is like, I feel like for us, one of our biggest roles as high school coaches is to coach them up for the kids that want to play at the next level. And at the next level, they don't call games like this. It's much more physical. It's lacrosse. So what happens is the kids are underprepared going into the college level as well.
Absolutely. It's a hard situation. I understand we have a lot of officials that lacrosse might not be their first sport, and this isn't coming from a place of wanting to attack or degrade them. This is coming from a place of we want a better understanding as coaches, as officials, and as players, so that the more we can all be on the same page, have a consistent gameplay that we can follow, and know how games are going to be called. That's a huge piece of the growth component for what we have to come in this region. And that transitions us nicely into kicking off with talking a little bit about the youth lacrosse.
Yeah. Youth is kicking off, man. This has been, we're in our second week of practices. It's been fabulous. Thanks to everybody coming out for this first season. It's been tremendous. There's quite a couple things here. Obviously, I'll just put a plug in here. Space Coast Youth Lacrosse League registrations are going to be open till May. So, like, if you feel like you're late, don't worry about it. Register. Come on out to a practice Mondays and Wednesdays, 5:15 to 6:30, in different locations. So again, the 4 teams we have is a Satellite, Vieira Youth, West Melbourne, and Merritt Island, and they all play local to their regions. But first game this weekend on the 7th, starting at 9 a.m. at Vieira Regional Park. It's going to be awesome. We've got 20 youth teams across the region from U6 to U14, which is unbelievable. Going from 0 to that many, that's a great accomplishment. And really, just thank the community for embracing this and making this happen, because obviously this doesn't happen unless we have the community pushing this. So really great shout out to all the youth coaches jumping in, and also just all the parents, the players, everybody embracing this. And I would say, I'll even drop a shout out to Brevard Parks and Rec for helping us, being a great partner and getting us field spaces when we need, because we know in Brevard County, between soccer, baseball, football, all year round now, it's been difficult to get field space, and they're partners in the other sports as well as Brevard Parks and Recs really made it happen for us this season. So we're really excited and grateful for all of that. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
And so to hopping over to that, we want to talk a little bit about college ball.
Yeah. So last Friday, before I go to the men's side, let me start on the women's side. Last Saturday, the Lady Panthers lost by 1 goal to Colorado Mesa in a tough game. They have played 3 straight 1-goal games, so that is a team that is battling, and even if they're not finding a way to win those games, that they're a young team, getting these close competitive contests against really high caliber opponents is showing that they're building something special there. And those are going to translate to wins in the games in years to come. Today they play at 7 o'clock, so we're recording this on Tuesday. They play at home this evening against Assumption in another good game. It's a breast cancer awareness night, and this kicks off a 4-game homestand for the ladies. And then switching over to the boys, they won on Friday afternoon. They had a nice game that Coach and I got to go out and watch. They beat Concordia Irvine by a score of 14-8.
And it wasn't that close.
Concordia scored a lot late in that game as Tech had already kind of sealed the win, and they scored some garbage time goals to make that look a little closer on the scoreboard than it really was. A couple guys that stood out, again, Jax Francisco in the goal. I feel like we've mentioned him almost every time we've talked about a Florida Tech game. But when you get a win that makes you the winningest goalie in program history, we got to give you another shout out, and another shout out to Thomas Strong, who just is a certified stud out there.
Yes.
There was a sequence in that game where he stuck about 2 goals in 30 to 40 seconds apart from each other, and that was really the back-breaking momentum swing for Tech, sticking 2 goals in under a minute. And there are a few times where it felt like there was just 2 punches that landed right back to back for Tech, and Irvine never really had a chance in this game.
Just want to talk about Strong real quick. I mean, the guy he's a great athlete. Obviously, you can't not notice him on the field, but every middie should be watching this guy play. Every middie. A lot of midfielders, when they come down and they shoot at an angle, they're hanging their stick, they're doing a crank shot. He does everything right off the shoulder and right off the wrist.
Yep.
And that's the best middies that I ever had the pleasure of playing with, the smoothest players. They all had that quick wrist shot that was faster than most guys' crank shots. And they come right off the shoulder, not showing anything, no trail checks, nothing, just right off the shoulder, pop. And I mean, he's got some of the quickest hands I've seen play in a while.
Yeah, they got a lot of guys that are fun to watch. They certainly have a type over there, the big 6'3", 6'4", downhill dodging midfielders that put a lot of pressure on the defense. And when we coach defense, it's a lot of, hey, stay in front, take the body, and that doesn't work against these guys because they're putting you in the dirt and going right over top of you to the goal. So that's been a fun team to watch so far this year. Saturday, they make a trip up to play Belmont Abbey, and they continue to make a push to be an NCAA tournament team this year. So highly recommend you watch the live stream of that one on Saturday. That'll be available through if you go to their schedule on their website, on the Florida Tech Athletics website, you'll be able to pull up the live stream there, and that'll be a great game on Saturday.
And just to remind both on the boys and the girls side, right? I mean, watching games is one of the biggest ways you get better. And not just watching the highlights of the scores and the goals, because that's the easy part, is watch what these guys do off the ball.
Absolutely.
Like the constant working off the ball. And then finally they break free, get open, get a goal. But it wasn't that breaking free to get open. It was all the other stuff they did before then, right? And so again, it's like if you want to become a great player, you have to become a student on the X's and O's and watch what they're doing. And nobody's ball watching. I mean, there's always some ball watching in every level, of course, but these guys work. They work.
Big time. So that kind of puts a bow on our college coverage for the week, and that'll send us back to Adam to cover the high school girls this past week and what's to come.
Yeah, let's start off. I'm gonna go from top to bottom, just about who's beating who. Let's talk about Vieira, the Holy Trinity Vieira game. That was the game of the week last week. Holy Trinity really came back to play hard, but ultimately they lost to Vieira 12-9. Really great showing. That's a good solid win. Both teams, people would argue, are the 2 best teams in the region. And Vieira won that day, right? So, then going next, Holy Trinity, other than their loss to Vieira, they beat Melbourne 18-4, which is a very sizable win. Edgewood coming up after that, they beat Satellite 17-1. And then Satellite, after that, beat Merritt Island 15-6. Cocoa Beach has beaten Melbourne 10-8 when playing matched up. And then Melbourne has beaten Merritt Island 12-10. And then Merritt Island, they're really trying to push hard. I know the flag football kind of took some numbers away from them, but they're putting together a team. Unfortunately, they're 0-6 right now. But those coaches over there and the players, they're playing hard, and And we really want to see them keep playing lacrosse and keep building that over there. And so our full support goes out to those to all those teams, and especially the teams that may have haven't been able to put a win together yet.
Yeah, keep it pushing. I've been there. One of my first years as a varsity head coach when I was still up in Pittsburgh, I took over a team of about 20 boys. 13 of them had never picked up a lacrosse stick before, and we had zeros in that win column for a good bit of the season. And it's frustrating, it's hard, but you keep showing up, and when you do break through, it's a really gratifying feeling. And shout out to all those ladies and the coaches over there. Keep showing up, keep putting the work in. You'll get rewarded in the win column one of these days.
And then I'll send it back over to you for talking about the high school boys. But, just talking about it, I've had losing seasons and great undefeated seasons also. But the biggest thing about any of that, right? We talk about this all the time. A lot of teams and a lot of coaches and players and parents, we get suckered into focusing on the scoreboard.
Yep.
And the scoreboard, honestly, is the lagging indicator. Honestly, if you're focused on the scoreboard, you can't change it, right? It's there. We talk about focusing on the process.
Yep.
The process is what matters in anything in life, because it's not a matter where you start, it's how you finish, right? I'm confident that these coaches know a lot of the girls' side of the coaches, obviously, and the boys, and it is great, because when we all talk as coaches, I think the majority of us understand, hey, it's the process. It's not the scoreboard, it's the process, because we're all trying to bring up lacrosse together in Brevard County and make it strong. And
listen, I don't say any of this to be discouraging towards any of these young athletes, but not many, if any, of our lacrosse players are going to be pro lacrosse players. Most of them aren't going to be college lacrosse players. High school athletics, being a coach, working with young athletes, it's about teaching them to embrace that process in every aspect of their life. And in a phrase I've used a lot, whether I was at the college level, the high school level, is the way you do anything is the way you do everything.
Yeah.
And if we can instill these good habits of being consistent, showing up, working hard, even when it's not convenient, even when you don't feel like you're on your best day, those are habits that are going to make these young athletes successful in every endeavor they move forward with. And those are the key takeaways. So the wins and losses are small potatoes if you're developing those good work ethic and those good habits and being the best version of yourself you can be every day.
Yeah, we always learn more in a loss than we ever do in a win.
Big time.
So, and that's everything.
All right.
So, kicking over to high school. Let's go. High school boys.
We left off with the Merritt Island ladies. We'll start with the Merritt Island boys. They're sitting at 1-6 right now. We got game tonight against East River, Wednesday against Cocoa Beach, and Friday against John Carroll Catholic. Not to be too negative towards the John Carroll Catholic folks, but hopefully that's a great opportunity for the Merritt Island guys to get a win and get back in the win column. As I've seen some of the other local teams, Cocoa Beach got a win over John Carroll last week. Mel opened the season with a win over John Carroll. So that's been a nice get-right game for a lot of teams.
And going back to Merritt Island plays the game they played against Vieira.
Yeah.
They're going to get a lot of wins the rest of the season. And
they've played a really tough schedule in this front half of the season. And I think as they start to play some more local games, that record's going to start to even out a little bit. And then we got Melbourne Central Catholic sitting at 4-1. Tonight or this afternoon, they play Windermere Prep at 4:00. Thursday, they play Jensen Beach. Last week, they had a win over West Shore, 12-0, and a win over Satellite, 11-9. Cocoa Beach is sitting at 3-4. Wednesday, they take on Merritt Island. Thursday, they take on South Lake. Last week, they had a win against John Carroll and a loss to Melbourne, 6-5. Satellite is sitting at 0-3. Thursday, they play Edgewood. Last week, they had a loss to MCC. A rematch of a game, another game from last week. We got Edgewood and West Shore going at it again tonight, and that's going to be Edgewood's senior night. And shout out to Edgewood. They only have one senior this year, but Alfred Cornegay, great kid, Sauce. We've seen him a lot out and about over the summers and in the off season. Shout out to him, one and only senior, unique situation over there. Two growing, developing programs at Edgewood and West Shore. They played last week, and it was a close game that West Shore won 10-8. So that should be another fun game tonight. And then Thursday, Edgewood takes on Satellite. Like I said last week, they beat West Shore 10-8, and they also beat Toho Pekaliga 15-3. And then obviously West Shore takes on Edgewood as well tonight. And then Thursday, they are going to be playing Holy Trinity.
And you know, the Edgewood West Shore matchup is a really good matchup because both schools are kind of in a similar situation, right? Yeah. You know, both have, you know, 7th and 8th graders playing on JV. They're both kind of building their programs. And they all, each of them have a handful of really good players.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's when you see them play other teams that may have more traditionally, you know, more history as far as winning history, it's hard to compare that. But I think when you put those two together, comparing the two, you've got one of the best face-off guys in the county playing for West Shore, and you know that's Trevin Lyons, and then you've got also you know, McOwen on defense. He plays really well, great athlete. And then on Edgewood, you've got, you know, a few really, really good players. Jackson is a strong player, really got a lot of strength there. And then, of course, you mentioned the senior as well, and a really rising sophomore defenseman who's going to be a big impact player in the beginning, and later is Leo, right? Yeah. So both teams have have the makings of, if they can put a few more sticks a little bit longer in a few more kids' hands, you know, because a lot of these kids have never even played lacrosse before. They've got something to build on. I think both teams have a lot to build on. They've got coaches that support the programs, lots of parents, and they have good pride and good energy on those teams.
So that takes us to Vieira sitting at 3-4. They've got St. Ed's tonight and Ocoee on Thursday. And then Friday, they'll wrap up the week taking on Winter Park in what should be a great game. Last week, they beat Melbourne, we mentioned. That's why I've got to wear the Vieira hat today. Can't wait to throw it in the garbage when this is done. They beat Melbourne 8-5. Who else did you guys play last week?
Let's see. We were supposed to play MCC,
a little rain out,
but we got lightning rain out. It just wasn't going to happen. Lacrosse guys were just not going to let us play. And you know, that was kind of our big games. And then you know, I think that of the most notable ones, those were the most important ones that were, you know, on our schedule. And so anyway, so I know we had Windermere as well.
Gotcha. So you had a win over Windermere earlier.
We actually lost to Windermere 10-5, but you know, for just kind of a little bit of how the sausage is made behind the scenes, you know, that was a gut check for the guys, because in practice we've been kind of playing half speed. And I think, you know, practice translates to games. Your practices need to be harder than the games you play.
Yep.
And so we bounced back and played a really hard fought win against you guys. And we were ready to play MCC, and I'm sure they were ready to play us, but that didn't happen. So we're going to postpone that game to later in the season. But the St. Ed's game tonight is going to be a real good test for Vieira, because I think that's the true test of where we are, you know? So we'll see you after tonight where we stand going the rest of the week.
So then that takes us to Mel sitting at 3-5. We've got Jensen Beach tonight and Oviedo on Friday. Like I said, last week there were wins over Cocoa Beach, lost to Vieira, and lost to Holy Trinity.
I will say something about Mel High, and this was something I said, and I still mean this. You know, obviously I coach a lot of the defensive players in the off season, so I'm a little biased. But of all the teams we played so far, and we played some hard teams, that was the best defense we've played all year. And I think it's going to be the best defense we see for the rest of the season as well. So that's good light at the end of the tunnel for our offensive guys. But I'm sure you can debate some of those things for sure. But I just say it was definitely the best defense we played all year.
So then lastly, it brings us to undefeated. We're sitting and looking like the top dogs right now. Holy Trinity, who has just been running through everyone on the schedule so far. And tonight is a huge test for them. Big matchup going down to Vero Beach. And until anyone stops these guys, I'm going to pick Holy Trinity in every game they're playing. They ran roughshod through us at Mel High last week. We couldn't crack their defense and their goalie. They just kind of dominated the possession and the time of possession game against us. They are just a smart, well-coached, good team that is going to be tough for anyone to beat. And they know their strengths, they play to their strengths, and they capitalize on their opponent's mistakes. So that's a great game tonight for them down at Vero Beach. Thursday, they take on West Shore. And that kind of covers all of our local teams' weekly schedules for this week in boys high school.
Yeah, so a lot of good lacrosse. I'll say this, in the past years, you could look at scores and be like, oh, we can win that or we can lose it. Scores this year are all over the place. Yep. And I really think it's probably because we got a lot of sophomores and juniors on all the teams. So you get even less consistency when you get those young players. It's like any given Sunday. I think we talked about this last week. Just the scores, we just can't predict anything. It just depends on who's showing up that day, who's got a good game strategy, and who can execute. Really, who can execute?
I'll tell you what. For as much lacrosse as I have spent coaching in the snow and cold of winter, I do not know that I've ever seen more kids come down with sicknesses and funks during the lacrosse season than I have this spring with these kids around here. And I don't know if it's allergies or some strain of the flu or whatever, but
it's consistent.
That on top of what you're talking about, just 15, 16-year-old athletes being inconsistent as it is, then you day to day not knowing if a kid might miss school or whatever because there's some funk going around. It makes for chaotic situations, and give all these coaches a little more credit than you realize, because the on-the-fly adjustments that need to be made when you don't realize that you don't have someone for a game at 3:00 and the game's at 6.
Yep.
You got to be quick on your feet and able to adjust on the fly. And I know there's not many teams with big, deep rosters around here where there's just another guy that you can plug and play in. It's a little bit of creative thinking and problem solving from a lot of these coaches. And I'll kind of wrap up on this. We're about at the halfway point of this high school season, and the regular season at the very least. Spring break's right around the corner, and then it's going to be playoff time shortly thereafter. So shout out to all the players and coaches and parents pushing through. Keep going, keep supporting your athletes if you're a parent. Keep supporting the coaches, and keep pushing, because we're almost in the home stretch now. We're making that push towards the playoffs. And there's a lot of good lacrosse to be played, and we got to make sure all these athletes are taking care of not only their bodies, but their minds, and staying on top of their schoolwork as the season gets busy and exciting as well. We got to finish with strong grades to end the school year, and we want to see some of these Brevard County teams make some deep pushes into the playoffs.
And I just want to add one thing. We'll talk about this coming up, the graduate games. So I think that's important to bring up. Get that on everybody's radars. For seniors, graduated seniors only. We're going to be sending this out to the coaches and the boys. Jordan, Josh, and I will be coaching the Brevard team, the Cape Coast team, going to play in Orlando. It's the weekend of May 9th and 10th. Obviously, if either one of our teams make that push, we talk about process, they break through, and we make that long push, the state championship weekend, that might change some things. But right now, May 9th and 10th, graduate games in Orlando, seniors, and if you're a senior, there'll be some registration links coming out for you guys to play it, and it's a lot of fun. It's all of the seniors from all the regions in the state of Florida will be coming together and playing in that tournament. So put that on your calendar if you're a senior, May 9th and 10th in Orlando, and more information is going to be coming. But that should be exciting to travel, and it's always a good time. And we did really well last year as Cape Coast. So.
All right, that'll do it for this episode of Lacrosse Brevard podcast. We'll catch you next week and talk more lacrosse.
Great. Thanks, guys.